I started playing Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, which is one of the like a Dragon, Kiryu Kazuma kind of Majima games. And I'm playing it in Japanese, like all Japanese,
Ooh.
which I
Mm-hmm.
am only okay at.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like almost relating to like my nephews when they were 8 and they could not stand to have any text, like dialogue on screen. They would just mash buttons as fast as they could. It's not like they couldn't read, like they can
Mm-hmm.
read. There's actually a difference at the speed that like a 9-year-old reads versus like a 30 or 40-year-old.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm experiencing with this, where I can read probably 80% of the sentences, or, get most of 80% of the sentences, but I often don't feel like it. If I'm in some sub story about like, an old lady who sells fruit or whatever, like I'll read the first 2 paragraphs and then I'll just be like slamming that button. Just tell me what waypoint I have to go to, which guys I have to beat up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's mostly just because like this is going to take me 4 minutes to read this conversation that would take me 15 seconds to read in English.
Sure. I do think video games can be kind of fun for pseudo immersion in a language. When I needed to pass my kind of higher level French exam,
Yeah.
I got Skyrim in French.
Oh, okay.
And just played a lot of that. And I had, that's the benefit of, for the most part, you don't really need to know what the characters are saying. And, you've played it before and everything.
Yeah.
But trying to keep up with a conversation in a game has that like, okay, I need to like quickly be able to parse these things in like the repetition of, okay, I didn't get that. Let's try talking to them again and see if they'll say it again without inconveniencing another person.
Yeah. I was trying to explain this to one of my coworkers where there's almost like an autocomplete that you build up in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I can read pretty well, but I cannot hear Japanese unless it's super slow.
Mm-hmm.
Because you almost need to know it well enough that you kind of know what the normal next word is, what the normal like end of the sentence is. Is the sentence actually over, or is this just a pause in the sentence? Like you just need tons and tons and tons of practice to like build up that kind of autocomplete before you can do it like remotely fast.
Mm-hmm.
That was my thought while you were eating your lunch.
And speaking of languages, we asked you to give us a card, front face in English, back face in also English, but they are both non-creatures. As Joyce would say, bound thee forth my booklet quick to greet the polished public. Writ, I ween, 'twas not my wish in lean, unlovely English.
Welcome to Beacon of Creation, a weekly podcast on game design through the lens of Magic the Gathering. I'm Tim.
I'm Juliet, and that isn't, like, Joyce wasn't the first person to write that. That was the first president of Ireland, who's also a poet. Anyways.
Oh, there we go.
We're here
As you probably know, because you clicked on this episode, this is part 2 of our January design review. Mm-hmm. We already reviewed 10 cards. We got 10 more today. What was the challenge that we're reviewing for?
So the challenge we were looking at is for January. It's Janus Two-Faced. Design a non-creature double-faced card with 2 optional bonus points. Those are War and Peace. The text contains the string equal to the number. And Jack and Jill went up the hill. The submission is easy to read.
Yeah, and even with that, we kind of needed 2 episodes to digest just all the cards that we got. We got 20 cards. We got a ton of submissions, 40 sides. I think one of the things that we started to learn with the last episode is this sort of spectrum between like kind of just a split card, like which of these 2 cards do you want to cast? And then on the other end are like cards that interact with two-sidedness, cards that are flipping back and forth or maybe just flipping one direction, something like that.
Mm-hmm. We've seen surprisingly little in the way of it's technically a non-creature, but it's mostly a creature I kind of
Yeah.
expected a like, oh, amass 5,
Mm,
like
yeah.
that sort of thing.
Make a bunch of creature tokens on one side, do something with them on the other side, kind of thing. Yeah.
Mhm.
But our first submission here that we're going to talk about this week is from Chris Riley, new submitter. Pew, 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 pew. Wah, wah,
Pew,
wah,
pew,
wah, 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 wah.
pew.
My brother, who's gotten way back into Magic. We talk about Magic
Wow,
every day, literally, with him and his friend Nate. They're both blossoming arena players,
how exciting.
and now they're dipping their toe into design. Chris's card here is Reinvent, which is an enchantment, and The Wheel, which is a sorcery. Reinvent is 2 and a red for an enchantment. When this enchantment enters, each player discards their hand, then draws cards equal to the number of cards they discarded. And then for 2 and a red, transform this enchantment. On the other side is The Wheel, which is a sorcery. Each player discards their hand and draws 7 cards.
So presumably when you pay 2 in red, you, like, transform this enchantment and cast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe, exile this card, transform it, and then cast the backside, like a siege sort of battle.
Yeah. Transform this enchantment on something that's not a permanent on the back. Wouldn't totally work as written, but yeah, the gist is there.
Mhm. So you cast this card for 2 in a red. We both discard our hand and draw back up to that hand size.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can cash this out to make us discard our hands and draw up to 7.
Yeah.
So I have like multiple lengths of wheel I can
Yeah.
try to set up here. And if I want a bunch of cards in the graveyard or to trigger a bunch of dredge triggers or something,
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, dredge. Whenever you draw a card, you can instead dredge, like mill mill a chunk of cards. Yeah, you have a bunch of dredge cards in your deck. This gives you 2 huge blocks of card draw triggers. So anything
Mhm,
that cares about card draw, whenever you draw a card, Niv Mizzet deals a damage. Put a
mhm.
+1/+1 counter on this Merfolk or whatever. There are a bunch of draw triggers, discard triggers. I guess like they're discard commanders, like that really just enjoy discarding, like the flying shark duo. I know is one that I've seen a couple times.
Sure. How do you feel about playing wheels in general? We
Hmm.
both discard, we both draw a bunch of cards.
Of very powerful old kind of grandfathered in cards, I think I like wheels more than tutoring. Tutoring I respect, but I don't enjoy doing. A
Mhm.
wheel, that's what I'm here in Magic to do. I'm here to have my deck give me a bunch of random cards. So I think I like wheels fundamentally.
Yeah. It's silly for one card to shift a lot of things, but I think it's the Narset from War of
Hmm.
the Spark
Yeah.
that says like, "Hey, your opponents can't draw extra cards," or there's a few commander cards that do similar kind
Yeah.
of blocking opponents from drawing extra cards that seem like they'd be fun symmetry breakers, but like I think we've seen be somewhat oppressive played alongside this sort of thing. But it's also possible to play in formats where you don't encounter those cards or just to not
Yeah.
not print that type of card.
Yeah, Narset. Basically, if your opponent would draw extra cards, they just draw one. So, like, I wheel fully, you discard your hand and draw one card. Or like Leovold is another one that you see in cubes and stuff, where each opponent can't draw more than one card each turn. Yeah, so I guess you're right that like those punishing cards have made it so that wheels are quite powerful in really powerful environments. But yeah, you
Mhm.
don't really get to play with them in not that powerful environment. I don't remember the last time I would have had a chance to cast a wheel in retail draft. I'm sure I could find a way to make it good, but it's definitely has more of a downside there. I'm less likely to be able to be super proactive with that.
I think this is kind of easy to read.
Yeah.
The two effects are paired together in
Hmm.
ways that we have experience seeing the front and have experience seeing the back.
Hmm. Hmm. The number of, so we got the other bonus point here.
Oh, sure. Sure. Reinvent the wheel is a nice kind
Yeah.
of combination here.
Yeah.
I
It's the two-sided or cards that like complete a saying between them.
I do think this is another one that maybe makes sense just as like an aftermath
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
effect where you're casting the first one and then casting the second one from your graveyard. Of course, casting this particular casting a wheel for 2 and a red from your graveyard might be a little bit strong in a lot of aspects. Just as far as, flashback-y sort of things go.
Yeah, there's Echo of Aeons, which is like a 6-mana time twister, basically wheel, but it's flashback for 3. And usually what you're trying to do is put it in there to, cast it for cheap from there. Great for submission.
Yeah. Speaking of first submissions, I believe, our next card is from Moth-Yogg.
No.
Pew, pew,
New submitter. Wop, 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 wop,
pew.
wop, wop, wop.
And the card we have here is a MDFC. It's a modal DFC. The front side is Evasive Maneuvers, which is an instant. And the back side is Offensive Maneuvering, which is an enchantment. Evasive Maneuvers is 1 and a white for a rare instant with choose target spell, gain 1 life. And then Delta V superscript plus.
Yeah.
There might be a mathematical name for that notation that or just maybe Delta V plus, perhaps.
Yeah.
But it's in parentheses, which makes me go like, okay, this is more of a function than a notation?
Yeah.
That I don't know. Anyways, on Evasive Maneuvers is 1 and white, instant, choose target spell, gain 1 life, and then the ability word, Delta V plus, pay X life. X must be less than or equal to the amount of life you've gained since the beginning of your last upkeep. Counter the chosen spell unless its controller pays X. So you've gained at least 1 life because of this card. And so then you can pay the life that you've gained as a maneuver to then tax the opponent's spell, and they have to pay that tax or it's countered. Which, if you don't have other life gain going on, this is the longest walk that you can take to get to like a mana tithe.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. By default, this can mana tithe, counter unless they pay 1.
And then the backside is Offensive Maneuvering. That's 2 and a black for an enchantment. And it has a slightly different ability word, Delta V with a minus notation instead. At the beginning of your end step, if an opponent has lost life this turn, look at the top X cards of your library. Put 1 of them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. X is the greatest amount of life an opponent has lost this turn. Then you may return this enchantment to its owner's hand. If you do, gain X life.
If you dealt 4 damage to your opponent, you get to look at the top 4, put 1 in your hand and the rest in the graveyard. That's a good effect. Basically draw a card, but better, especially if you care about your graveyard. If you really want the life or you really want evasive maneuvers, you can return the enchantment to your hand.
And then that adds to the tax of evasive maneuvers on the following turn.
Oh.
If you have creatures to attack with, or ways to have your opponent lose life, offensive maneuvering can help you. Then you pivot from the damage you've done in order to move back into evasive maneuvers, I think is kind of the flavor.
That's something I didn't appreciate about the white side at first, is that it's the amount of life you've gained since the beginning of your last upkeep. So when I first read the black side, I'm like, well, I'm going to gain 4 life, but then my turn ends because this is the end of my turn. So although, I reset the tracker, but you don't reset because evasive maneuvers cares about the life you gained in the whole turn cycle. I mean, this backside is strong enough that you would play this on its own. And then if you're black-white, hey, once in a while, if things are really bad, you can mana tithe.
Yeah. As long as I've pinged an opponent, I get to, either draw a card or surveil and draw a card that's a fun little enchantment.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can also kind of give your biggest creature lifelink in a way, or all your creatures lifelink if they're all attacking the same player, is that's a neat little package.
The other thing that's kind of nice about the offensive maneuver thing is that it's not free. If you're playing your average limited deck, you could have something on the more controlling or slower side that isn't actually capable of like always dealing damage to the opponent. So this is not like a completely free draw an extra card every turn. You have to maintain some amount of aggression or some amount of pinging your opponent or something else that you can do on your turn to keep this rolling. This doesn't help you deal damage to your opponent by itself. So it's like kind of a risk reward. Do I want to ease up on committing creatures to the board to draw more cards? Or do I want to just like play more creatures in my deck and not worry about playing a card like this?
So the two different ability words, I assume delta V with the plus
Yeah.
notation, that is equal to the amount of life you've gained since the beginning of your last upkeep.
Yeah.
And
Plus. Yeah.
delta V with the minus notation
Mm,
is the greatest amount of life an opponent has lost this turn.
yeah. Maybe that's what it's supposed to be, because it's delta, right? So the difference
Mhm.
between things. Okay.
And
That's
and
cool.
V in this aspect can be like vitality,
Oh,
or something
yeah,
like that.
sure. Yeah.
It turns out delta V, also known as change in velocity,
Oh.
is used in spacecraft flight dynamics.
Oh.
The measure of the impulse per unit of spacecraft mass that is needed to perform a maneuver.
Mm,
For
wow.
interplanetary missions, delta V is often plotted on a pork chop plot, which displays the required mission delta V as a function of launch date.
Mm, pork chop plot.
Yeah. Believe it or not, I think Tim and I both might not have firsthand experience with the, like, charting of vectors for spacecraft maneuvers. I'm
Yeah,
trying to
maybe
remember
not.
if that's ever come up for me or not.
It's
I
I'm sure it's flashed on screen in one of 20 video games I've played that talk about it, but
Uh-huh.
I've not done it personally.
Yeah.
I will say my vision has just started to fail in the last year or two, and the
Mhm.
plus and the minus on the Delta V were not visible to me at first.
Yeah.
I became suspicious that they might be different, and so I zoomed in on the card, but at the size that they were, at the compression level that this image is, I did not see that they were different.
Mathiag did helpfully paste the
Yeah.
card as text as
Oh, I'm
well,
not
which is
trying to throw a
the
foul or anything. I'm
Oh, yeah,
just
no, that's the only way that I was able to discern that difference.
but yeah, this is a great card. I think this would be fun to play with. Do I want to put this into commander deck? I think I could put it in most commander decks, and then it probably comes to life in the deck this is supposed to be, which is like the black white aristocrats, like gain and lose life kind of deck that black white often has. So it like fits at a home, like a deck archetype that exists, but it also kind of functions on it by itself.
I'm of two minds about specifically mana tithe style
Yeah.
cards that your opponent is like, if I have offensive maneuvering out and I've damaged
Mm,
you,
okay.
and then, like, it's returned to my hand, you
Yeah.
know that I have evasive maneuvers, and you know
Mm,
what the X would be on that. And
mm,
so that's a and then you also have to remember, okay, it's X plus 1 because it's also gonna gain a life. I don't think that's a bad thing because it is sometimes good to let people know, like, to to forecast or to
mm,
to signal things, but that can also basically end up being kind of on-board trick, like, "Oh, right, I should have remembered that you have the evasive maneuvers," sort of thing. So, that's just a thing to, like, be careful about around,
mm.
counter spells that bounce themselves to hand
Yeah.
and have conditional things.
The face up counterspell, especially in like if we're talking commander or something where time passes or whatever,
Mhm.
it's like especially annoying there. I'm not trying to criticize this card. I'm just kind of
Mhm.
backing up your point where like, I bounce this thing, and literally 18 minutes later. So, a crucial moment happens like, oh, I could have known that. Oh, I lost this game because I didn't, write down that you had this counterspell in your hand or whatever.
Mhm.
It's one of the nice things on Arena. If it's known information, it just stays face up in their hand, so maybe is less offensive there.
Yeah. But real interesting card.
Great
Fun
card,
to talk
great
about.
submission. Yeah,
Not easy to read. But
that's fair. Yeah,
but doing interesting things. And as we always say, like it's
Yeah.
good to diverge from the bonus points to follow an interesting design.
It ties together in a great way, but it's easy to miss.
Thanks for the submission.
And welcome. All right, next up we've got James Dalton Bell with Blessing of the Angels, which is an instant, and Ascend to the Host, which is an enchantment. So Blessing of the Angels is 2 mana, white blue hybrid, so white blue, white blue. You could play this mono white, mono blue, or a mix. And as an instant, target creature gets +2/+2 and gains flying until end of turn. And then the back, Ascend to the Host, is 4 white blue, so 6 mana for an enchantment. Creatures you control get +2/+2 and have flying. Whew. All right.
I'm pumping my fist in the air. This knocks the Jack and Jill one up the hill,
Oh yeah.
out of the park.
Yeah, yeah.
And honestly, I think is a really fun design space for like a dual face card
Hmm.
where, hey, I can either get this effect on one creature as an instant
Hmm.
or expensively on all my creatures permanently.
Yeah, yeah. We were kind of applying the like, should this just be a one-sided card test last week? And I think that this is I'm not sure what the answer is here, because if you had to write this like one-sided, you'd have to probably put more text than these two things combined. Like you'd have
Mhm,
to say, you may cast this as an instant if you pay blah 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 blah. If you do, sacrifice it at end of turn. Some other garbage like that. And here it gets to be pretty simple and really easy to comprehend.
mhm. Not needing to do like overload plus create an emblem
Yeah,
sort of
yeah,
situation
yeah.
to change the text.
This becomes an enchantment with blah blah blah. Yeah,
Instead, being able to look at it and be like, oh, right, I see at the bottom it's 4 white blue for an
mm,
enchantment. Great, that's the enchantment version of this. Easy
yeah, yeah,
to, you don't have to slide it out of the sleeve to look at the back.
yeah, yeah. I you could I would say that the power level of this card is quite devastating for an uncommon in limited, like the backside of +2/+2 and flying. Like we got in the new Lorwyn, there's like a Chronicle of Victory or something. It's an artifact for 6 mana that gives like +2/+2 for a strike and trample, and that's like a mythic grown test card that like just ends the game all the time. And this +2/+2 and flying is probably at least as good as first strike and trample in most boards. But simplicity wise, playability wise, very high.
I do think the front side is, to me, like definitely stepping outside of color pie.
Oh,
The like just target creature gets +2/+2 for blue and a blue.
okay.
That's not something that
You don't usually see that. Yeah, that's true.
I'm in support of because, like, I mean, as I always say, like all cards are blue.
Right.
Eventually, if you let everything, blue's gonna get everything. Plus, it's the card draw and counterspell and evasion sort of thing. And so we've seen that even, I'm thinking about like spectral flight. I want to say,
Hmm.
auras that give +2/+2 for
Hmm.
1 in a blue have been constructed playable, like, multiple
Hmm.
times in different standards because, like, that's really a bend to be able to
Yeah.
grant, and it really stomps on green's, sort of space because green doesn't get a lot otherwise in the, like, instant kind of family.
Yeah, I'm looking at all the like blue combat tricks in the last like 5 years or so, and none of them give +2/+2. One of them gives +1/+3. Mostly you're getting like 1 power in flying. Or there's a lot of like negative,
Mhm.
-4, negative whatever. There's a lot of those. That's a good call out. I did notice that.
I think the closest that we get are auras that give +2/+2, like, on a
Yeah.
flash sort of thing.
Hmm.
I think the literal only 2 mana blue thing would be Burden of Proof from Murders of,
Mm.
Karlov Manor, which is 1 in the blue for an aura uncommon with flash, and enchanted creature gets +2/+2 as long as it's a detective you control. Otherwise, it's a 1/1 and can't block detectives. And that's kind of an outlier as far
Yeah.
as things go, because there aren't instants that do that sort of thing.
Yeah. No, I hadn't noticed that. That's cool.
But if the funny sort of thing, what if we made the front side of this azorius, like white and a blue, and the back side for blue white, like hybrid,
Mm.
and we swap the two. The
Oh,
front is gold, the back is hybrid. Because I feel like that's fairly fair.
yeah. I guess the friend is already kind of in danger of not being the thing you want to cast.
Mm-hmm.
The friend side on its own is a last pick. Like, no offense, it's like a thing like there's like a +2/+2 white trick right now in Lorwyn, and it's like you can get those for free whenever you want in the draft.
Sure.
So maybe that was the concern of making it easier to cast, is to like try to get it to be something you cast. Because I really, really don't want to cast the friend if I don't have to. I want to save.
Sure.
Yeah.
I forget about Mighty Leap, despite it being printed so many different different
Yeah.
times as literally the text there.
Yeah.
It's like so easy for white to get, and I'm like, but I can't give it to blue. I just can't.
Yeah. No, that's a good call out. And it's like a hybrid. I mean, it's the kind of thing where, for some reason they want to do like a 5 cycle of these cards, and they're like trying to massage the hybrid and
Hmm.
the backside cost on all these cards. And like, oh man, well, in order for the numbers to look right across this whole cycle, we have to give +2 to blue. Like that's what it sort of feels like to me.
Hmm.
But as a one-off, maybe you're right. Maybe we can try to find a tweak.
Yeah.
Cool card though. It's got like cool, like I don't know, sort of Christian art to it, like the angel, like 1500s. I don't know what the actual year is.
Tim, you don't know that Juan de Flandes was a Flemish painter active in Spain from 1496 to
Oh,
1519?
hey, 1500! I nailed it.
My
uh,
my art history tutoring
there you
experience is
go.
really paying dividends. But thank you for the submission.
Yeah.
This is really fun.
Hmm.
Our next submission is from Yabo. It's okay. The front side is a artifact equipment named Handy Wrench, and the back side is a artifact equipment named Multi-Tool. So
Mm.
Handy Wrench is a rare for a single mana. It's an artifact equipment with equipped creature gets +1/+1
Hmm.
and equip 1
Okay.
and craft with any number of equipments. So we've got the Lost
Mm.
Caverns of Ixalan mechanic, the craft with. So and craft with any number of equipments, then 5 generic mana.
Oh, okay.
To craft into the backside, we've taken our handy wrench and we've added all these other equipments to it to make the multi-tool backside. So this is
Uh,
a transforming DFC, so it doesn't have a mana cost there. It's a artifact equipment with equipped creature gets +X/+X, where X is equal to the number of cards exiled to craft it. I think it meaning multi-tool, to
mhm.
craft multi-tool. This equipment has all abilities of cards exiled to craft it.
Huh.
Flavor text, always use the right tool for the job, which in this case I think is the one tool that you put all your tools into.
There you go. Craft itself is a little complicated, but the rest of this card very easy to read. I feel like I got the whole gist just listening to what you said.
Mhm.
This is like a usable enough thing to throw down early. One to cast, one to equip is like just a little bit better than what the common version would be.
Mhm.
You want to find like 2 other equipments or something that you're going to have in your graveyard. Craft, you can exile other equipment from the battlefield or from your graveyard. And then once you do that, you get whatever those equipment normally did. So if it was like a +2/+0 in flying and +0/+3 and vigilance or whatever, you get both of those. So you get +2/+3 flying and vigilance. But then you also get a little bit of bonus just to make sure it's worth crafting, which is an extra +X/+X, where X is the number of cards exiled to craft it. Just quantity helps you, but also I think the mixture of quantity and the actual abilities, the equipment, both of those are rewarded pretty equally.
I've really gotten a lot of mileage out of one generic mana, equip for one generic mana, +1/+1. I
Mm.
think Leonin Scimitar is
Yep.
the OG from original Mirrodin, and we've seen variations of that kind of add other abilities and sometimes increase the equip cost, but then occasionally sometimes we can get still for the single generic mana, because it's like it is both a +1/+1 counter that you get to move around and doesn't die with a creature,
Yeah.
and helps your artifact synergies, helps your equip creature synergies.
Yeah.
So if I just had, I don't know, a whole bucket of if I could play 14 handy wrenches in,
Mhm.
well, maybe not. I mean, maybe in a yeah, let's say 14 in a 60 card deck, maybe. And then I'm just gonna craft with a bunch of them to make it a 5/5 one that I can still then huh. The I do think we need an equip ability on the backside.
In case
I
one of
think
the things you exiled doesn't have equip on its own.
oh, but it does carry that equip, doesn't it? Never mind.
There
I
you
was
go.
like, "Oh, we're missing," but yeah, no, has all the abilities of the cards exiled to craft it, including its front side, I think?
That part was a little unclear to me. So the text of craft is that you exile the original base artifact as well as a bunch of other stuff. So
Sure.
the friend side was technically exiled in order to craft.
But it's not still in exile? That's a nuance that
Correct.
I don't know,
Yeah.
the
I
end
wasn't sure there. I
version.
was kind of giving it the benefit
Mhm.
of like it's probably supposed to work that way, but
Yeah.
I guess it does kind of matter in terms of the playability of this because if you're trying to exile a bunch of like random equipment, that other random equipment might have like a legit equip cost of 2 or 3 or pay 5 life or whatever kind of equip cost it has. So
Mhm.
if this guarantees that you can equip the multi tool for one, that is kind of a difference maker. But I
Yeah.
guess we could imagine it either way.
Or
Uh,
maybe you try to craft with some of the occasional equipment that's like sacrifice a creature
hmm.
to equip,
Yeah.
that sort of non-mana cost.
Yeah, you could pick. Would I rather pay 1 mana? Would I rather pay the special equip cost? That kind of stuff. Yeah,
I like the equal to the number here because it seems like just really intuitive.
yeah. You get to layer on just like this bonus extra thing onto your multi tool that is easy to remember, easy to explain. I think gameplay wise, you still have to like, all right, everybody, let's add up the bonuses I'm getting. Oh, and what's the creature's power? The creature's a 1/4, and it gets +0 +3 from this, and +2 +1 from that, and +2 +2 from this ability. But I think it's not a reading issue. I think it's just, numbers. You got to add up numbers. You got to re add numbers, just like with a combat trick or pump effect or whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is a cool card. It's a little on the dream side for me, even like in a constructed like commander deck or like actual, constructed to have that much equipment in your graveyard
Mhm.
is a little tough to do, but the dream's there. People will want to do it. People will throw it in their equipment deck to once in a while have the equipment that gives like +14, +19 or whatever.
I would love to play a cube where this is
Hmm.
like you have this plus some truly kind of really wild
Yeah.
equipment,
Yeah.
and you get a little like, "Hey, do you have some of the reanimator cards, but
Yeah.
not a full reanimator package? Here, use multi-tool and craft to
Mm.
make your little 1/1 token into equivalent to a really strong reanimation target instead."
Yeah. I think the closest I've played to that in the Mirrodin Cube that I've got, you can get a decent amount of equipment. And if you have enough equipment on the battlefield and limited, it kind of doesn't matter what your creatures are. Like they all are
Mhm,
just like this flexible force. I would say the limiter in that environment would be getting the artifacts actually into your graveyard.
mhm.
Because I'm guessing if I'm threatening to do this wrench multi tool thing, they're just going to destroy the wrench. They're not going to kill my other equipment. Finding your spot there seems challenging, but maybe it's doable.
Yeah.
Great submission.
All right, Tim, you've got the next one, which
Oh,
is, I think, easy to read, maybe.
we've got the Xena card. Xena, our much beloved submitter of cards that we have to read usually 5 times, but we'll see how they do with this one. The front side is called Struck Oil, and it's a sorcery. And the back side is also a sorcery. It's called Phyresis Stricken. So Struck Oil is 1 black-green. For a sorcery cause, cast this side from your hand, it says in parentheses. Lose 2 life, gain 2 poison counters, draw 2 cards. So 3 mana, draw 2 with some downside. And then on the back side, we've got Phyresis Stricken 3, and then it has a Phyrexian black and a Phyrexian red. So this could be up to 5 mana, but you could make it as cheap as 3 mana if you're willing to pay 4 life. And then it's a sorcery effect with the reminder text on it. Cast this side from your graveyard, then return it to your hand.
Mm.
And the effect of Phyresis Stricken is each opponent loses 2 life for each poison counter you have. Wow.
Flavor text on the front is, we found the riches for which we hungered. That's Struck Oil. And on the back side, Phyresis Stricken, flavor text, ... and found ourselves devoured.
Mm.
As we always say, more of that strange oil. It's probably nothing.
Yeah. That poor Vedalken.
Yeah.
So I am losing a lot of life probably, but I'm also making my opponent lose a lot of life. Is the hope.
If I'm casting Struck Oil on turn 3, 1 black and a green,
Yeah.
I lose 2 life, I draw 2 cards, I gain 2 poison counters.
Yeah.
If then next turn I'm on 4 mana, I want to cast this, I pay the black because I've got it. Oh, I don't have a mountain. I'll pay the 2 life for that. Then I'm down 4 life, give or take. And I've got 2 poison counters, up 2 cards, and my opponent now loses 4 life.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to either poison myself a whole bunch.
Yeah.
I want to get up to like 6 or 8 poison counters, I think,
Yeah,
and then be able to spike my opponent's life total.
Yeah. The environments that have poison counters on them are so rare that this is maybe delving into like poison counter as experience counter equivalent.
Mm-hmm.
Like I might proliferate poison counters onto myself.
I could imagine on some board states just casting this over and over again. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to Struck Oil into Phyresis Stricken.
Yeah.
I'm on 6 mana, so every turn I can do Struck Oil, Phyresis Stricken, and have the card back in that way. But then I have drawn a bunch of cards. Maybe I want to spend my mana on those things, or maybe I can pitch those cards for some other purpose, and to maybe I can pitch those cards to gain myself some life in the process. As a repeated damage to the face thing, I do think about this as like that's a win condition. Like that's a card that you pick to be the way you try to win the game.
Yeah, this is quite lethal. I guess if you have any other way that you're getting poisoned, this is going to just murder a one-on-one opponent. Like if you can get 2 or 3 poison counters elsewhere, because, you know, if you hit them for when you have 3 poison counters for 6 and then 5 poison counters for 10, like that's almost their entire life total just off of 2 casts. If you're getting just a little bit extra poison somewhere, even on its own, it kills them in like 3 casts or whatever.
And on some multiplayer boards, I do think you might be able to just if I can deal 16 damage to if I can make every opponent lose 16 life, I might be winning that race.
I was trying to think of whether I like this sort of like poison as experience counter, like this like growing thing that your opponent can't stop. If I like that more in one-on-one or in Commander. I think you have to basically treat the poison as full upside when you're balancing the card, because it's so unlikely for someone to use your poison against you in anything but a specific limited environment. maybe if there's a world where proliferate becomes more common, your opponent can gotcha you when you're at 9 poison and just like get you out of nowhere. But yeah, this poison has to be sort of seen as an upside.
I do think for original, like, Scars of Mirrodin, New Phyrexia block, and for, All Will Be One,
Yeah.
they did at least do some testing of that kind of, "Hey, I poisoned myself," and is
Yeah.
that and I think the scenario that you've just described is, like, exactly kind of the tricky problem with trying to balance any of that. The If my memory serves, the kind of classic idea is, here's a dual land that, like,
Yeah.
give you 2 colors of mana, and, when you tap it, you get a poison counter. It's like
Yeah.
that either, your opponent can take advantage of that and kill you, in which case you don't get to use your land, or it does there's, like, no drawback until you've tapped it 9
Mm.
times, or
Mhm,
that sort of
mhm.
thing. And that is ultimately not a fun thing, like, that design space, even though there's a lot of cards you could design in that space, it ultimately doesn't create fun in the environment and doesn't add to the fun outside of its environment and, like, the rest of Magic.
Yeah, that's why I sort of I'm trying to think of a place where they would have a bunch of these cards. Like I guess this could just be like a one-off Modern Horizons card where it's just a
Mhm.
self-synergistic thing that isn't intended to tie into any other specific cards. But I'm also trying to think like could you have like the alternate commander in a commander deck happens to like poison you, and then a bunch of the cards that were printed for that commander deck happen to work with this. Everyone gets poisoned. Everyone for the number of different counters on a player, blah blah blah. Because this, I think, would be fun and appealing. Like people like, oh, I'm such a dark mage that I'm, harming
Mhm.
myself in order to, harness the power of Phyrexia. Ha 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 ha. Like that's like a fun flavor thing that is easy to understand. It's cool. It ties into magic stuff. So there's got to be some place to deploy this technology, which means I have a good impression of the card. Like I think
Mhm.
this is a cool effect. It's kind of well constructed to be a little bit tough to do one on one, just on its own. You lose a lot of life yourself, so your opponent has an opening. Yeah, so interesting card. Maybe speaks to some sort of environment you could create, or some sort of commander deck, or something you could have.
I think what makes this card kind of a highlight for me compared to some of the design stuff that we discussed is that life gate, or that life loss element,
Yeah.
that even if the poison counter isn't really, like, making marching me closer towards death, even if none of my opponents are gonna have any proliferate or anything like that,
Hmm.
I'm losing 2 life minimum every time I go through this cycle. I'm very tempted to lose 6 life, when I'm casting, because, I mean, I've drawn 2 cards. I wanna spend my extra mana on those cards, not
Yeah.
on paying for the mana part, the black and red part of Freeze Stricken that I
Yeah.
could just spend 2 life on. And so, ultimately, if I'm ticking up my poison counters and losing 6 life each time I go through this cycle of Struck Oil into to Freeze Stricken, or that sort of thing, I think then every opponent can have counterplay to that. And so I think tying life loss into it makes a lot of sense for this card and is
Yeah.
a really fun balancing thing. And then also can synergize with other cards that, Death Shadow, Cecil sort of
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. Intentionally drop your life total. Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm definitely thumbs up on this card, especially because it has those additional points of interaction.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess the last piece for this for me is the like DFC test that we've been trying to apply. Like, would this be better as a single face card? I think there might be some argument to that for this one because it's um like in order this has a ability that's relevant in the graveyard, but only the backside of the card. So if you're talking like sleeved physical cards, like do I unsleeve this whenever I cast it and put it in my graveyard to remember that I can even do this, or like the DFC kind of works against the playability a little bit here.
Mhm. I think this is another one that we might think about exploring either as literally aftermath or, like, aftermath alike.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we could put the return your hand either into the new keyword or into
Yeah.
the rules
Yeah.
text of
Yep.
the cards.
Yeah.
But yeah, this a top tier Xena submission.
Yeah. Easy to read. You did it, Xena.
Absolutely. Our next submission is from Eint. It's Ozok's Dreadful Rise on the front. That's a legendary instant. And on the back, Throne of the Clatterer, which is a legendary land.
Hell yeah.
So Ozok's Dreadful Rise is black and a green for a mythic legendary instant. And as a reminder, you may cast a legendary instant only if you control a legendary creature or planeswalker. And its effect is create a tapped 1/1 black skeleton creature token for each non-token creature put into your graveyard from the battlefield this turn.
This turn. Okay.
And then it's a modal DFC, so you could just play the backside as the legendary land. Throne of the Clatterer enters tapped, and you can tap it for add black or green, and then you could pay 2 black green and tap this to until end of turn. Skeletons you control gain trample, have base power equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard. Activate
Oh.
only as a sorcery.
Yeah, pumping their power is pretty crucial for this one. Yeah, I was thinking of the friend side when you were reading that. I was remembering there was an old card, like a Kaldheim card, that I really wanted to be good in Commander, and I never ever got it to do anything, which is Rise of the Dreadmarn. It's got foretell or whatever, but its main effect is create X 2/2 black zombie berserker creature tokens, where X is the number of non-token creatures that died this turn, which is sort of what this instance doing. It makes 1/1 skeletons, but I think it's otherwise the kind of same effect. And I could never get this Rise card to work. I don't know why. I could
Yeah.
never time it where I got more than like 1 or 2 cards out of it, and they're like, oh, why did I even play this card? So maybe I'm just scarred by that. I don't know.
The thing that makes me think of is Collar of the Claw.
Oh, that's like an elf,
A
right?
an Yeah, the elf wearing the bear pelt
Yeah.
from Legions that I could never understand, like, when, why, how you would play this card.
Oh yeah.
I
Same
I
card, yeah.
remember
Yeah.
being, like, so confused as a child, going, when this creature enters is the new Scryfall text, so I'll just read that. Create a 2/2 green bear creature token for each non-token creature put in your graveyard from the battlefield this turn. The same sort of effect is tricky, and I
Mm.
think similar to, let's see, was it Kieran's card from the last episode, when we're counting only non-token creatures for the, like, tokens that we're putting onto the battlefield, that number just, like, never is going to be too high because you can
Oh,
get
you
lots of
want it to
creatures
be
onto.
high. You want it to like, after a board wipe, I'm gonna get like 8 things. Yeah.
Yeah, but, like, especially if it's only the ones going into your graveyard, are you going to have 8 creature
Mm,
cards
yeah.
on the battlefield? Honestly, I don't frequently have 4 creature cards on the battlefield. Like, if I have more than 3 creatures, some of them are gonna be tokens, I think is,
Hmm.
like, that's the
Yeah.
default that I
Yeah.
start at least. I do like the idea of potentially having a bunch of creatures that go, like, that kind of can choose to die. And so, or like having, I don't know, some grave crawlers or things like that. So, like, yeah, okay, this creature was put into the graveyard from the battlefield, but it will come back right away. It will be returning. I'm sacrificing my blood ghasts and then just bringing them back here.
Mhm, mhm.
Ozok's Dreadful Rise is kind of difficult with the legendary component
Yeah.
because
That's the other part.
you expect a board wipe is going to be how you're going to turn these things on,
Mhm.
but if you've got a board wipe, you definitely need to have a legendary that can regenerate itself skeleton style maybe, or or something like that.
The combination of legendary and like it being more restrictive than the two cards we were talking about, Rise and the Elf.
Hmm.
Um, Not to say that it doesn't do something interesting, like the flavor makes sense. A bunch of things died, and then they raised back as skeletons. Like that rules, obviously. But we just immediately got skeptical of like, will we ever be able to cast this for anything? It is only 2 mana, so maybe the dream is even higher. Like, oh, a bunch of stuff's gonna die all at once, and then I'm gonna get 4 things for 2 mana. But I guess the main thing that kind of ties it together is I'm gonna play a couple copies of this. I'm gonna make a couple skeletons here and there. And then I'm gonna have this legendary land that pumps all these 1 power skeletons into a truly worthy token that like becomes like a 7/1 or something really strong. And that's what actually allows me to get paid off is having multiple copies.
Eint says the background for this, or the intent for this card is a fantastical pioneer deck where Ozok's Clattering King is legal. And I do think Ozok's kind of ties the room together
Oh,
potentially.
okay.
Ozok's the Clattering King is 2 and a black for a legendary creature skeleton noble. Ozok's can't block, and when Ozok's dies, create Jumble Bones, a legendary 2/1 black skeleton creature token with Jumble Bones can't block, and when it leaves the battlefield, return Ozok's from your graveyard to your
Hmm.
hand.
Hmm.
So if you have Ozok's out and
Yes.
Ozok's dies, then you have the legendary token
Uh
to be able to cast Ozok's Dreadful Rise.
you have Ozok's dies, you get Jumble Bones dies, you get Ozok's back, and so on and so forth. To make sure that you always can cast your legendary instant. I did not know Ozok's. That was not a Jumpstart card that I've seen in action. Some of those Jumpstart 25 cards are pretty popular, but this one I hadn't seen.
Yeah.
Um,
I love the name and flavor. I don't know, Jumble Bones is that's,
Jumble Bones, yeah. What a great little guy.
great. Mhm.
Yeah, I think like a couple more tribal payout. It feels like green is becoming the secondary skeleton color. We've seen a couple skeleton cards that involve green, so that was a good choice for card as well.
Yeah. We definitely have the equal to the number sort of stuff.
Mhm, mhm.
I think this is got just a little bit too much going on for the easy to read bonus point.
Yeah. Maybe also partly the difference between like the front side cares about the things that hit the non-token creatures that hit the graveyard this turn. The back side cares about creatures that are in the graveyard from any turn. So like they don't quite share the synergy there or the wording there.
I kind of wish for this card to be more in the like Ixalan map style.
Oh, like art wise?
More like you can get this cool legendary land
Okay.
if you like. I'd like
Hmm.
Ozok's Dreadful Rise, which has this kind of hoop that you're going through. And then after I've cast the instant, I
Hmm.
would love for it to be able to turn into the land,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
maybe make the instant an enchantment so that it can like turn into to the land or something like that.
That would make sense. Like you could imagine a throne made of little skeletons. So it's like, hey, sacrifice a skeleton or two to get this throne where little skeletons hold you up as you sit on it.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a cool card, cool submission, lots to talk about here. I just brought too much of my own baggage. My initial reaction was like, oh, this will never work. But there's plenty to like about this card.
I do think it is worth like spelling out, like with the Rise of the Dreadmorn or my experience with the Color of the Claw. These card this type of effect can be confusing to like a decent subset of players, or like difficult to pay off if you
Yeah.
don't have like, hey, everyone plays this one sweeper and every deck has 4 of it. It's like, great, I know exactly the tempo with which, like the turn with which every creature will be destroyed, and they're just destroyed, they're not exiled. Like, if you know that everyone's playing exactly Day of Judgment, then some of these cards are easier to play, or that sort of thing. But
Hmm.
it can be even trickier in like common play or in the wild.
Yeah. Next up, we've got a card from Andrew. Love having him submitting. This is great.
Are we going to read the joke submission or the real one?
I don't know where the joke one went. The joke
Yeah,
one's like
yeah.
in the channel somewhere. Maybe I'll try to
I
get that
think
in the doc. I'll put a note for that.
it's an intentionally
Yeah.
self-obfuscating card.
But for now, we'll just cover this one here because we got plenty of text with our buddy Dovin. So we've got the friend side of Hard Light Cell, which is an enchantment. Um, and then Dovin's Unflinching Authority, which is also an enchantment. The Dovin side doesn't have a cost, so I'm guessing we're going to have to flip.
Mhm.
Hard Light Cell, which is 1 white blue for an enchantment. It has a new keyword called Imposition, which is 2 white blue. You may pay this spell's imposition cost as you cast it. If you do, it enters the battlefield, then transforms. So kind of like a kickery thing, like I could pay 3 mana or I could pay 7 mana. When this enchantment enters, exile target non-land permanent and opponent controls until this enchantment leaves the battlefield. And then the backside, Dovin's Unflinching Authority, an enchantment. Creatures you control gain Ward 2 and have, when this creature enters, exile target creature and opponent controls until this creature leaves the battlefield. Interesting. Until this creature leaves the battlefield.
Yeah, so for 3 mana, I'm gonna always call it Oblivion Ring, but I
Sure.
suppose Banishing Light is the
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
since they aren't 2 different triggers. But then for just an extra mana? No, I think you pay 3 plus the 4 rather than
Yeah.
just pay
I think you've
4.
got to pay an extra 4. Yeah.
Yeah. So for 7 mana, then I get the O-ring component, but it's entering and then transforming. It's not exiling itself, so that the hard light cell isn't leaving the battlefield. So I get an O-ring, and all my creatures become O-rings when they enter. And they also get ward 2, which is definitely not nothing, especially when each one of them also
Yeah.
acts as a type of removal. The front side is non-land permanent. The back side for the creatures, they just exile other creatures, which I think is a smart choice there. You can still remove
Mm.
a pesky planeswalker or artifact or enchantment or that sort of thing, but the creatures themselves only exile target creature and opponent controls so that you're
Yeah.
not getting into tricky little loops that break Magic the Gathering Online.
Yeah. Yeah. Classic. So I think the friend side and the flipping effect works really well for me. This all makes sense. This is kind of
Mhm.
novel as well. I'm going to enter, I have an enters ability, and then I flip as my enters ability also resolves. So, like, hey, we're going to do this thing, and then I immediately go to the second side. And then on the back side, it took me an extra read there, like you were saying, and a two-sided card where I have to sort of understand that, like, the friend side can exile any non-land, the backside can only enter creatures. So, like, is it easy to read? We're close. We're not. I might say we're not exactly there. I thought when I first read this, my first understanding was like my creatures are sticking things into the cell, but the creatures aren't sticking things into the cell. They're all individual jailers for their individual creature that they grabbed, which is maybe a better way to do it. But it just took me an extra second to comprehend that. I think this is a cool card overall. This is super fun. You do this, and then like you become sort of the badass at the table, where you're able to turn all your creatures into little jailers. Sheltered by Ghosts is like a pretty relevant card right now. That's like an aura that is sort of like an Oblivion Ring that goes on a creature, so it sort of makes your creatures jailers, and that gives ward as well, which turns out to be a pretty crucial part of Sheltered by Ghosts. So I'm expecting the Dovin card here, that ward being quite relevant.
The word, I think, is also interesting if you are playing this, let's say you're in a 1v1 and your opponent is playing kind of a creatureless sort of thing, that the ward can still be useful if you're up against a control deck. Hey, I can't O-ring each creature that you play, or the creatures I'm O-ringing are these tokens that you make every turn or whatever that don't matter. But also, you do have to spend extra mana to remove my
Mm.
creature. So even though it isn't a special jailer or anything, it still
Mhm.
has that extra protection. I think that to me helps kind of make the card sing a little bit better, that it's basically never dead if you have that 7 mana.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a cool card. Feels very Azorius-y.
Mm-hmm.
Imposition. So imposition, can we get 10 cards out of this keyword? You pay the spells you cast. If you do, enters and then transforms.
I think yes, in the
Okay.
sense of kicker isn't kicker is a thing that we know kind of works in
Oh,
general.
yeah.
And MDFCs and like DFCs in general are kind of things that work. And so, hey, I can cast this and it's a reasonable, I'm paying the kind of gold tax for this, but it's still 3 mana for Oblivion Ring. The Then being able to kick it late in the game to be this bigger deal. I think we could, following this model of little thing into mass production of the big thing, I definitely think we could get 10. I don't know if every color pair would want, an equal amount of imposition, or if imposition is kind of a like,
Hmm.
hey, can we make 6 Azorius cards with
Yeah.
imposition? Or
Yeah.
can we make, not that Ravnica typically has done this, but I think
Yeah.
maybe something to do more in the future, it would be like, hey, here's 4 Azorius imposition cards and 3 Orzhov ones, because they
Hmm.
also are doing their
Okay.
imposing. Or maybe each of the white aligned guilds could have
Hmm.
like an imposition, and so you
Okay.
have one of those for, or
Yeah.
yeah, let's say 2 Azorius, 2 Selesnya, 2
Yeah.
Boros, 2 Orzhov,
Hmm.
and then you have a similar mechanic for each of the
Yeah.
Woober colors that get uh, represented
That's
that way.
kind of brilliant. I like that.
Let's see. I don't think we have equal to the number, but I don't know that we need it here. I don't think that would
Yeah.
improve this. I think if you said, oh, it gains a ward equal to the number. I mean, I guess creatures you control gain ward X, where X is equal to the number of the mana value
Hmm.
of the card you
Hmm.
exiled with Hardlight Cell or something. But it's much simpler and better as is this way.
Yeah. Great card.
Mhm. Our next submission is from Miss Liss. It's Grand Cauldron Trash Pit, which is a enchantment artifact, and Grand Cauldron Inferno, which is an enchantment. And this also appears to be a transforming DFC. So Grand Cauldron Trash Pit is a single black mana for an uncommon enchantment artifact. It has an ability word Wasteful. At the beginning of each end step, if a player sacrificed a permanent this turn, put a trash counter on this artifact. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you may pay a single red mana. If you do, put a trash counter on this artifact, then transform Grand Cauldron Trash Pit.
Hmm.
Flavor text. All it takes is a spark.
Oh.
And then backside, which is a red enchantment. It doesn't have a mana cost, but you spent red on the back, so on the front. So the back is red color identity. Grand Cauldron Inferno. It is just an enchantment because I think you've you've burned up the artifact part. Its ability is remove any number of trash counters from this enchantment. This enchantment deals damage to any target that isn't a player equal to the number of trash counters removed this way. Activate only as a sorcery. And when this enchantment has no trash counters on it, sacrifice it. When you do, each player loses 3 life.
Oh.
Player text. All it leaves is poison.
Ugh. This is like slowly accruing trash counters.
Hmm.
A player sacrificed a permanent this turn, so treasure food are probably like the most turbo ways to do it. But if I'm playing a black deck, maybe I'm just forcing people to sacrifice stuff. I put a bunch of creatures that sacrifice themselves in
Hmm.
here. So maybe my deck, I can pretty reliably trigger this each of my end steps, and then once in a while, my opponents will feed it a little bit. Um,
And if you've got no sacrificing synergies, or there's some like creatures can't be sacrificed or anything, you
ugh,
can. at least put one trash counter on this as part of the transforming condition of you've paid a black to cast it. Now
Yeah.
your upkeep, you can pay a red to flip it. And so you'll at least be able to do a ping to any
Yeah.
target that isn't a player, and
Yeah.
then each player loses 3 life.
Yeah. So minimum, I at least get the single ping, and then everybody loses 3. If I have like, I have a great day, I have a ton of trash. I got like 6 trash counters on this. When I flip this is like Triskelion style, where I can like do 3 this turn, another 2 next turn, and the last one like a couple more turns from now. I get to split
Oh,
it up.
sure. I was thinking it was all at once, but no, it's remove any number. Yeah.
It is sorcery speed, so it doesn't give me that like total combat superiority that sometimes these effects have.
Mhm.
Um,
But for single mana at a time, I think the sorcery speed is good.
yeah, this is like a deep build around where it's like not really what I'm trying to do in a regular deck. But if I have a lot of cards that all point the same direction, this starts to get there. The card that jumped into my mind was an old one, Shrine of Burning Rage, which is like an
Sure.
old Scars block card. Every upkeep and whenever you cast a red spell, put a charge counter on it. Then you can pay a bunch of mana and sack it to shoot something for the amount of charge counters. That was like a fun early like cube aggro card, like the mono red deck. You could get up to 4, 5, 6, 7 with this and just have a huge wallop on your opponent's face right near the end of the game, or kill their big, stabilizing play with the shrine. And this trash pit is not nearly as automatic as the shrine. The shrine is like every upkeep and every red spell you power up. With the trash pit, it's every once a turn for sacrifices, and then one final bonus one. So it's a little less consistent, but it might have the same sort of feel of like I'm building up, building up, building up, building up, and then like I'm gonna take over once I have like a bunch of counters.
I like wasteful tracking. Hey, beginning of each end step, if a player sacrificed a permanent this turn, I assume
Mhm.
is the thing that makes the ability word. That's
Oh yeah,
neat because you can enable it proactively in a few different ways,
yeah,
and also just in the environment where you print this card, you'd also have maybe you have a bunch of junk tokens, that are easy to sacrifice or make people sacrifice.
yeah.
Uh, and so I can be sacrificing my stuff on my turn, or on your turn. I can be making you sacrifice. I can be making everyone sacrifice. There's, I mean, even just with like fetch lands and things like that, you could trigger wasteful like most turns, maybe even like twice every turn cycle. So that's a fun ability word to kind of think about.
Yeah, yeah. I, this isn't totally related to exactly this card, but what do you think about the difference between at the beginning of each end step, check for sacrifice and get one thing, versus when something's sacrificed, do a thing once per turn?
Sure. Um, I think on the whole, the latter is the like probable trend I would expect from current Magic design, and is probably it's tricky. I think for some players, one is going to be way easier than the other, and for
Mm,
other players, the other is going to be way easier than the first.
mhm,
Uh, I think tying things to when the thing happens is probably better. But if I'm making a bunch of that, do I want to just have, hey, here's kind of the wasteful phase.
mm,
Here's the trash counter phase where we look and go, okay, did this thing happen? Great, we put the counter on all of the relevant permanents. So I
mm,
can see the benefit either direction, and I would tend towards the once each turn. I think just to kind of bundle that
mm,
to when the event occurs, and I think that will ultimately be less words. Is I can kind of why I would wait towards that is
mm.
because it's probably just less characters on a text box.
Yeah. With the end of turn, you're gonna miss that or forget that trigger until later or something once in a while. I guess the once a turn, the risk is that you accidentally do it twice in a turn or something like that, a particularly long turn.
Mhm. And I'm sure there will be, like, ultimately some weird stuff around, okay, but I have this creature that sacrifices itself at the end of turn.
Oh.
Does it get seen by,
Mm.
like, do I have to stack my triggers,
Yeah.
as a sort of question?
Huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool card though. It builds up. This is for like a really specific deck, but that deck could get a lot of efficiency out of the mana cost compared to the damage it does.
Yeah, I think the sleekness of the mana cost, single black mana to
Mm.
get this started and then a single red mana later to get it going is like that's a really core element to this card. I think part of what makes it especially interesting to think about.
Yeah, 2 mana would really make this harder to weave into your curve, whereas 1 mana, either turn 1 or while I'm doing, on turn 3 or 4, it's really easy to get down a 1 mana thing.
Mhm. Yeah.
Cool card, thank you. Next up, we've got our second to last card. We're almost out of cards. Oh no. We'll just have to wait until next month. Uh, or just look in one of many other channels on the Discord for as many new cards as you could possibly want. Uh, which rules.
February Design Challenge, submit a triple-faced card. Like the, is it Optimus Prime is the triple-faced card? Am I
Oh,
remembering right? Yeah.
like in the Transformers card game?
I know, like, I think there I could be mistaken. Isn't there, like, an Acorn,
Oh,
like,
is there?
triple-faced card that's, like,
Oh,
only digital?
I've already forgotten. Yeah. I guess there's the six face Baldur's Gate Arena alchemy cards, but anyhow, our second last card here is from Pat. The front side is called Talarian Mechanism, which is an artifact. And then the back side is a land, Abandoned Wing. So Talarian Mechanism is 5 mana for an artifact. Tap, add an amount of colorless mana equal to the number of non-token artifacts you control. All right. And then Abandoned Wing is a land that says this land enters tapped unless you pay 3 life, and it taps to add colorless. Oh. The Talarian Academy has been destroyed and rebuilt countless times. So this is like a MH3 DFC, right? Like I get
Yeah.
either a card or a land. And if I want the land to be untapped, I got to pay a little bit of life.
And it's interesting that the land part, it's like, here's tap, add a colorless, which is much stronger than it used to be
Mm,
as an ability
yeah.
with the printing of things like Kozilek's Command in
Yeah.
Modern Horizons 3.
Mm-hmm.
But the add a whole bunch of mana, is it metal work? No, the vintage one I think looks at artifacts in your hand.
Talarian Academy is close to
Yeah,
this. Yeah.
which adds blue equal to the number of artifacts period that you control, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then this has the non-token kind of specification.
Mm-hmm.
5 mana for, I mean, minimum it'll add 1 mana because it itself is an artifact, so
Yeah.
it sees itself. Let's say you have one other non-token, non-creature artifact and 2 non-token creature artifact, like artifact
Mm.
creatures out. If I have a 5 mana tap for 3, 5 mana tap for 4, do I play that? It could
I,
also just be a land.
yeah, I guess that the land buyout like really makes this pretty, I would say, appealing to me.
Mhm.
You have to be playing an artifact deck and you don't get to cheat with like food tokens or whatever. But if I got nothing to do and I play this and it only generates 2 mana now, I'm still expecting it to generate 3 or 4 mana in a future turn. So I'm okay
Sure.
if like my current artifacts are not that impressive. And then if I just am desperate or my hand is already stocked with mana sources and I just need lands, I can slam this as a land. So I think in an artifacty deck, I'm pretty confident I'm gonna get something good out of this card.
It's taken me a little bit to realize that wing in Abandoned Wing is not like the wing of an ornithopter,
Yeah.
but wing of a oh, it's the wing of an academy. It's
Yeah,
the wing of a
yeah.
building. Yeah.
I guess you have like the abandoned wing of like a dragon or something, and that's like a tent. uh,
But yeah, I
yeah,
think it's most of the academy has been blown up, but
yeah,
like, hey, this one like second floor hallway is still
yeah,
there. And
yeah.
so yeah, we can still use that classroom, you know.
I would have easily slammed this card in a deck that I've kind of disassembled for around the newer Joyra, which lets you cheat larger and larger
Mm.
artifacts into play. Because that was like, 50 something artifacts in a deck. I need an excuse to put some like kind of expensive cards in there. Yeah, that commander deck I had would have loved this card for sure.
And okay, I've already got 5 generic mana. What's an extra 4 generic mana? It's like, well, if I'm casting a bunch of artifact cards, having 9 mana, that might be actually being able to I might not be locked by my number of, color sources
Yeah.
from my mana sources.
I also like encouraging artifact decks that aren't just about the cheap artifacts, like that want to play the whole spectrum of cheap to expensive. I feel like that's part of the artifact fantasy to me, is a mixture of really cheap and really expensive stuff. And this is sort of the bridge between those two. It rewards that total lifestyle.
If you compare this to expensive mana rock artifacts that
Yeah.
have a card draw buyout, how do you feel about, whether that's like a 4 mana, hey, tap to add this, tap to add 2, or sacrifice
Cycle it.
it to draw 2 cards sort of thing, or I
Mm.
think there's like the 6 mana that
Oh
is like
yeah.
that for 3.
Yeah, like Mind
Um,
Stone and the 4 mana Mind Stone, the 6 mana Mind Stone. Yeah.
yeah. How do you and
Mm.
especially think about like the 4 and the 6 mana ones where
Yeah.
it's not like ramping you immediately. Like, hey, I'm spending 5
Yeah.
mana to get there. So I'm already in this case, I'll definitely play this as a land if I only have this and another land,
Yeah.
or I'll play this to cast a more powerful artifact on curve. But
Hmm.
how do you feel about, having a DFC, having a buyout on
Yeah.
things, having cycling
Mm.
on a expensive, bulky card or something that just adds mana? This being like, okay, you can either add mana or it can add mana. And
Yeah.
so there's less of a buyout in that way?
Yeah. I would say I would split that based on format, because I think in draft, having like an actual buyout, like a card draw, like a Mind Stone kind of thing, is more
Mhm.
important because I'm more likely to run out of cards. And then in Commander, I think this is preferable, I would say, because
Sure.
it's really desperate mode if I'm sacrificing my mana rocks. Each 2 mana that you can generate, you get an extra commander cast, so you have like a natural thing to do with too much mana in Commander, even Commander Limited.
Sure. That makes sense. We've got equal to the number of, and I think this is pretty darn easy to read.
Yeah, yeah. But I do get to count all my artifacts each turn, which maybe as an artifact collector I'm enjoying. I'm making everyone else sit through like, oh, and there's a land hiding under there. That's an artifact. Oh, I'm up to 7 guys. Woo hoo hoo. It's kind of fun.
There's also something I think neat about there's a flavor thing here of,
Ooh.
hey, here's a Tellurian Academy that got destroyed. We can either try to
Ooh.
reinforce the walls and like start the rebuilding process
Mhm.
slowly, or ignore the academy. Hey, we found this Tellurian mechanism. We found this
Mm.
artifact. Let's salvage it instead of salvaging the place. So you're kind of deciding one or another. To me, I don't think it's an important thing for MDFCs as designs and stuff, but for me personally, I enjoy when it's like, "Hey, I'm making a decision between like flavorfully making a decision between 2 things and kind of committing to one or the other." I
Yeah.
think we saw the Troubled Sanctuary, Halcyon Sanctuary
Yeah.
from, Otter in the previous episode.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that is a good flavor thing too. Like I can do 2 different things. It's almost like the stereotypical like strategy game narrative choice. Do I, demand this village pays me tribute, or do I recruit their best warriors to my army? Like, that kind
Mhm.
of thing. Yeah.
Mhm. And if we're making DFCs, it isn't just an opportunity to put more text on more cards,
Mm.
have more card per card, but
Hmm.
also ways to interface with how casting spells, making artifacts, creating mana bonds with lands, like going places and exploring new planes and encountering things,
Yeah.
we can kind of tie into that way. In the way that like DFCs being introduced in Innistrad, stuff having a second side
Mm.
is part of the feeling of Innistrad, that like, hey,
Mm. Yeah.
people are going to turn into werewolves, innocent folk are going to turn out to be possessed by demons. We've got those things going on.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I think, yeah. And because of that, I think this passes the DFC check pretty well. This works well as a two-sided thing.
Mhm.
Makes it easier to track. My opponents are not really worried about the other side, whichever side I pick. So it's good there.
Our last submission here is from Kuyashi Plays. It's Blitz of Beasts. It's a battle siege on
Mm.
front, and then its backside is an instant. Siege is, of course, when you give the battle to somebody else to protect, and then when you defeat it, you get to exile it, transform, cast the backside for free. Blitz of Beasts is 2 and a red for a battle siege with creatures attacking the protecting player or permanents they protect have trample. And then in
Mm.
parentheses, players protect planeswalkers and battles, which that's fun that planeswalkers are also being protected by the players.
Oh,
And it
funny.
has defense counters of 4. I don't know it has
Yeah.
a strength of 4, I
Use
think.
defense. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when you've defeated this, you get Breaking Through, which is a instant, and let's see. Breaking Through deals damage to each opponent equal to twice the excess damage
Oh.
dealt to battles they defended this turn.
Huh.
So you've got the excess damage dealt to battles. So
Excess damage dealt to battles. Interesting. I mean, excess damage is often dealt to battles, so that's like a thing that happens to battles.
the funny thing is the trample being given in the front side isn't trample over battles, trample over planeswalkers to hit the player
Hmm.
until you flip the siege, and then it's like, okay, this one time you're trampling over, but
Yeah.
specifically over this battle.
Huh.
So pay 2 and a red, and it it's kind of like a fairly simple equation, right? You're getting 2x minus 4, where x is the power you're able
Yeah.
to send at this.
Yeah, I guess if I have 20 power worth of creatures or something, I get to send all of them at the battle. And that's where I start to profit, because whenever my opponent tries to block, it's like I'm dealing face damage but multiplied with my trample damage.
Mhm.
Um, it's like a little less good if you're just like plinking a couple damage here and there.
And just so the listener knows, I know it's 2 x minus 4, like 2 and then in
Oh.
parentheses x minus 4 to actually you have to
Love to
subtract
read
the
math
4.
equations out loud.
Yeah. We've been exploring a lot of
Oh yeah.
we've been exploring a lot of battle spaces in the most recent You Make the Pack with
Mhm.
which just ended, trying to find, okay, what's a set of battles or kind of a
Mm.
style or approach to battles that especially doesn't slow the game down in a multiplayer, in a like commander setting where like, okay, yeah, you have legendary battles that can be your second commander background style. And I think one of the things we found kind of two different designs or design approaches for, but basically, hey, you're dealing damage to the battle, that damage is going to be amplified to
Mm.
the player rather than this being a bonus amount of life. It's like, actually, by targeting the battle, I'm making more progress rather than less progress on
Mm.
reducing life totals down.
Yeah. Yeah, finding those niches for battles has been kind of tricky. Like looking at, you make the pack, probably 30 battles got designed, and was it
Mhm.
2 of them made it in, or maybe 3 of them made it in?
Mhm.
So it's not an easy nut to crack. The friend side here of just like, hey, anything attacking that player has trample is, I guess it's like a counter to like planeswalker decks or something. I'm trying to think of what problems it solves for like a multiplayer game, or what matchup am I improving by just having trample on everything. That by itself doesn't feel like 3 mana worth of stuff. So
Yeah.
I definitely want the second half as well. I want to be face damage. I want to be either aggro or kind of Gruul style. I'm going to build up a bunch of power worth of guys and then Gruul smash.
What if this had a lower defense to begin with? I
It
I
is
do
funny,
think
yeah.
probably giving more of a bonus on the front would be something. But if this had like 1 defense or
Hmm.
whatever, because I feel like the best thing I can do is kind of plink away at this
And
and then
then,
send
yeah.
everybody.
Mhm.
Otherwise, my math is not optimizing on my breakthrough.
Yeah. I like the attempt, and I think the grueliness is kind of saving it for me. Like the double damage on the excess damage. That really says, like, if you've even got like 10 power worth of attackers, once you're up to 15 or 20, you're going to crush your opponent, no matter what they have.
Unfortunately, if you have 15 power of attackers that aren't getting blocked, you might be crushing your opponent, like
Yeah. But
the
like if
conventional
they have
way.
blocks, if they have chump blockers, if
Uh,
they have other stuff,
right.
I can get trampled to make sure I run over those guys. Yeah. I'm comparing it to just like giving everybody trample for a turn. Like it really comes to life over that effect when have 10 or 15 power worth of stuff.
And can turn, "Hey, I like, technically, I'm slightly bigger than you,"
Mm.
into and a thing that I think all Magic players have to learn or relearn or have reinforced sometimes
Yeah.
is the difference between winning next turn and winning this turn.
Mm.
It can be winning and losing the game, and so being able to play this as kind of like this spike, this, "Hey,
Mm.
we're doing the trample, and then we're getting the double, and the double gets you for exact, where it wouldn't otherwise."
Thanks for the submission. Got us up to 20. I appreciate that.
Equal to the number and easier to read than basically every existing siege, give or take.
Uh, that like to permanence they protect. That's a little tricky, but it's on the face
Sure.
up side at least. So at least you get to read it whenever you want.
True, true.
Alrighty. You got any favorites here? You got one or two that you want to shout out?
Hmm. I think I'm going with Grand Cauldron Trash Pit
Oh,
for my pick
okay.
because I really think I'm on the I spend a black mana, get a enchantment artifact that can like be accruing counters and things, and the number of different synergies possible out of the
Hmm.
sacrificing, the additional counters, being a enchantment artifact, being able to flip it to deal damage and or lose life. There's so many things that can connect in with it.
Hmm.
And I think the flavor is a fun thing where, yeah, every time somebody throws something away, the trash pit gets bigger.
Yeah.
And then I'm just gonna put my single red mana on this. Oh, whoops! It's on
Yeah.
fire.
Yeah. Yeah. Ugh. I think I might shout out. I mean, that Talarian card would have just slammed right in my old commander deck. But I think what I'm actually going to go for is one of our new submitters, Mothyog. The evasive maneuvers, offensive maneuvering.
Mm, mhm.
It maybe doesn't hit the easy to read bonus point, but I think overall the flavor of like I gotta like jerk the ship around to do something different, and then like I'm gonna bounce this thing to do some more stuff, and I'm kind of paying off sort of an existing black white archetype of the mix of life gain and life loss, but
Mhm.
in a way that I can imagine there being more cards that are doing this. We got the Delta V plus versus V minus. I can imagine doing more of those cards in a little pack or a set or a commander deck or something. And I just like how complete a submission it is from the first submission. Like innovative, new keywords, has two sides to a DFC that really play into each other very satisfyingly. People will look at this card and be like, oh, I want to do this.
I also want to say, I think imposition from Andrew's submission is a keyword that I'm going to be thinking about for a while, and I'd be really interested to see more designs with that keyword.
Yeah, I like your do keywords by color, but then effects by guild in a Ravnica set. I think that's a fun way to use that kind of effect.
Yeah. And speaking of keywords, we've got our February design challenge,
Yeah.
which is Febru Air Elemental. Design a 4/4 flyer with mana value 5. And then we've got bonus points, Febru Era Angel. Give it exactly one other keyword. And Brew Air is human. Make it a human.
Yeah. So we already got a ton of discussion for this challenge in the Discord. Kind of the mixture of like, how much does the humanness count? How much do we care about trying to get a new keyword? The kind of baseline power level of a 5 mana 4/4 flyer. There's a lot to break into with this.
I'm really looking forward to these. It is funny how strictly better Sarah Angel is than Air Elemental, and yet especially back when we would play those cards, blue is such a strong color that having a vanilla or a French vanilla 4/4 flyer is still quite the beating.
Yeah.
Those submissions are going to be due February 27th.
Alrighty. Yeah. Got plenty of time left. And that's about it for the podcast for the week. Hop on the Discord. That's where all the action is. That's where all the submissions are. I'm sure we're not that far away from turtle season, so be sure to jump in for all the previews, talking about all the mechanics. This kind of artifact-y set, it seems like it's going to have some pieces of that. So I'm kind of curious about that.
The day that we are recording this, in just a few hours, the game that I've designed in the last 4 weeks is going to be out on itch.io. I'll put it in the other games and design channel in the Discord, and you'll see me talk about it on Blue Sky. It, of course, being the day that all the Secret Samuel submissions, which I use kind of as a game jam every year, are going to be out. So that is going to be fun.
Awesome. Look forward to that. If you need to find either of us, Discord is probably the easiest place to do that. And most of all, everyone, thanks for listening.
This was the hidden backside of the episode the whole time.
Yeah, what rider that everyone forgets about is at the end of this episode.
Yeah.